Two direct attacks on life. The big stories gripping the nation right now are weighing heavily on the minds of Catholics. The mass shooting at a Buffalo supermarket and the chaotic battle over abortion rights. Joining us now to talk about these significant events is the Bishop of Brooklyn, Robert Brennan. Welcome, Bishop.
It's good to be here. It's actually good to be in the studio itself.
It's so nice to have you here in person. Bishop, first let's begin with the rampage in Buffalo. Look, we're seeing shooting after shooting in this country. We're also seeing that we're getting away from the faith. Do you think there's a direct correlation between the two?
What we're seeing are some extreme cases of violence. We certainly were fortunate here in Brooklyn, but we saw a case of that kind of violence here in our own neighborhood.
The subway.
But with the subway shooting, yes. But in Buffalo, I think we're troubled by that one. It's just horrific on so many levels. The fact that race is involved is deeply troubling. You know, in so many ways, we've grown so much and we've gone beyond it, and so many people of goodwill are making great strides to heal the wounds of racism, and yet every once in a while we see something horrific like this that just tears open the scars, and that affects us at our deepest core. In this particular case, this was an individual who had extreme views on racism, on anti-Semitism, but it was just filled with hatred and I guess emotionally unstable. So this is troubling at every level. But one of the things we react to is that level of hatred, any kind of hatred against people because of race, because of creed. You know, we're all created in the image and likeness of God, and so that's a direct attack on God.
You know, speaking of racism, the U.S. bishops released a statement shortly after the shooting calling for an honest dialogue rooted in Christ in addressing the persistent evil of racism in our country. Now, the church has had conversations before, so what needs to come out of future discussions on racism?
I think it's always going to be an effort on our part to, because it's the actual dialogue itself that makes the difference. We need constantly to be listening to each other. We need to be able to understand how other people see events, you know, not just through our own eyes, but how other people experience events like this. We're reminded of that all the time. We need to understand and listen deeply to each other's experiences, positive and negative.
Right.
There are a lot of things we can teach and learn from one another. So when the bishops talk about that dialogue, that's not going to stop.
Yeah.
Because that's something we need always to be engaged in.
And maybe more so, we need to do it more often.
That's right. That's right.
So in addition to prayer, you know, everybody says, you know, we're going to pray for the victims and pray for the communities and all that. What other actions can Catholics take in times like these?
As I said before, this particular case is troubling on a lot of levels. The racial aspect is very important, but there are other issues about how we care for people with mental illness, how we look out for signs of trouble, and then what kind of support do we give to families who are struggling with somebody who's in this deep, dark place? How do we emerge from something like that? So I think that's something we need as a society, not just as Catholics, that's something as a society that we need to address. As Catholics, we need to pray and we need to witness. We need to respect and promote human dignity at every stage, for every person, no matter what. In a world that's becoming increasingly more polarized, the temptation is to become more virulent in our own speech and in the way we react to one another. Again, emphasis, times like this, both, as you said, for profound prayer, but also for deep listening and understanding, and then for bold witness, but bold witness in a joyful way, a bold witness, personal holiness, and living that out, and and going out of our way to show dignity and promote dignity and show respect, those are things that that spread. They have a contagious effect.
Now I want to talk a little bit about the topic of abortion. First, what was your reaction to the leaked Supreme Court document? It appears to show that the judges could vote to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Well, you know, it's hard to react to the leak. First of all, the leak itself was somewhat dishonorable,
Right.
and it's being used as a pressure point, and that's highly unfortunate. We don't even know what the final decision's going to be. That was a draft back in
Right.
February, so
Right.
we don't know
It could change.
what the actual decision is going to say and what and how it's going to be expressed. Certainly, it's encouraging to see the very, very legitimate questions about Roe v. Wade. It's been argued by many that it was poorly decided law. It's not, putting aside the issue of abortion, there were constitutional issues.
Right.
In terms of the issue of abortion, though, and in terms of the issue of life, it's encouraging to see that emerging vision respecting human life.
Right. And I know you took part in that day of prayer and fasting last week. Catholics praying that it will be overturned, praying
Well,
that we
yeah.
can change the hearts and minds of people who are pro-abortion. But how do we change people's hearts when it comes to abortion? What do we do?
In honesty, the notice for prayer and fasting came out kind of late for us really to promote it.
People did it, though. A lot of people took part.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad for things like currents and for our social media. I think sometimes we don't understand the world of bulletins and
Right.
deadlines and getting communications to people. But what we were able to do through currents and through social media was invite people to pray on the Feast of
Yeah.
Our Lady of Fatima. Back on the Feast of the Annunciation, we consecrated Ukraine and Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary,
Right.
part of that great mystery of the apparition of Fatima. So on the Feast of Our Lady of Fatima, we joined with our Blessed Mother, praying for peace in our world,
Right.
praying for that respect for all life, and trusting to her our prayers as we all stand together before God. And what does that accomplish? Again, prayers have a value in themselves, but witness has another value. As a people of prayer, as a people who are giving joyful witness and trusting in the help of God, that's going to be transformative in the world.
And when we talk about changing hearts and minds, how do we do that?
That's the real challenge here. It's, you know, you can make legislative changes, but without a conversion of heart and mind, that means nothing. You know, the Supreme Court decision is really not putting an end to abortion.
Right.
But we have to be clear about what it is. What it does do is it returns it to the states so that there could be genuine discussions. You see, right now, the way things are with Roe v. Wade is that you can't even have a discussion
Right.
about abortion. So it gives states the opportunity to study and to debate and to come up with policies. You know, most people don't want to see abortion on demand through the entire 9 months
Right.
of pregnancy. By far, people don't want that. But the way the atmosphere is right now, you can't even have that discussion.
Right.
And so what will happen as a result if the case does go in that direction is it gives a chance for an honest debate and for some legitimate regulation. Obviously, we're looking for something deeper, but that comes through that conversion of heart and mind. And there have been advances, scientific advances that have brought about conversion of heart and mind, where people do see the inestimable value of life, but see that the development of the child is pretty early on
Oh, yeah.
in the stages of pregnancy. So there are the scientific discoveries, but then our own witness of the dignity and the value of life. You see, human dignity is the thread that ties everything else together. We were talking before about racism. We were
Yeah.
talking before about violence. Human dignity is the foundation to all of that. So the more we can witness to human dignity at every stage and for every person, that's going to have a transformative effect. And then finally, the care we give to one another. The New York State bishops, we came together, and we had been bishops' conferences across the country have been examining this question
Sure.
for several months. And here in New York, we picked it up last week. Unfortunately, it was after the leak kind of jumped the gun on
Right.
things. But we wanted to talk about that, a pro-life future. And so one of the things we do, and I think our pro-life community and our parish churches do this remarkably well, is we want to be able to support those who are in need
Yep.
at the time of pregnancy and in those years
Right.
of raising a family.
Well, oftentimes the pro-life movement is criticized for being pro-birth and not caring for the mother in need after the baby is born. But so how do we change that perception?
Well, the fact of the matter is, some of our greatest volunteers in our different organizations are pro-life people. And so, you know, they're not just noisemakers. Most of those who give pro-life witness also do that hard work. So we have organizations here, such, for example, like Bridge to Life and the Life Center of Brooklyn, just to name a couple.
Yeah.
Those are pro-life organizations where people dedicate hours and all kinds of expertise to giving that kind of support. I was just at the dedication of the new Bridge to Life Center. They went into a new facility. You covered that, and they've expanded. They were over at St. Fidelis. What remarkable work they do. So it's
From
lots
birth and through childhood.
So, you know, helping the family, helping the mother.
Yeah.
And then having parenting classes and
Wow.
discussion, and helping people to be able to tap into the resources that are there. You know, years ago, Cardinal Kana, we mentioned this in the letter, made that pledge that every Catholic parish, and he was speaking for the Archdiocese, but I think this is true of all dioceses, that every parish would stand ready to assist someone in need
Right.
in this kind of a situation. And, you know, parish outreach organizations, they all, I mean, it's remarkable the work that is done. And, you know, not everybody can do everything, but what I think we can work even harder on is providing that network.
Yeah.
So
Spreading the word.
Spreading the word, but also being able to spot one another, to say, you know, we do this well, you do that well.
Right.
And so the more that we can build those bridges, the more we're able to help people in need. Rather than just duplicating everything all the time,
Right.
we find ways to supplement.
Yeah, work together and coordinate.
Exactly.
All right, Bishop Robert Brennan, thank you so much for being here and for your insight on these two stories. Hi, I'm Christine Persichetti, anchor of Currents News. If you like what you saw, please hit the like button on this video. And if you want to see more content just like it, subscribe and click on the bell for notifications. Thanks for watching, because we are putting your faith in the news.